about consistency builds credibility. And I want to break down the science that is behind that. We're going to be brief during today's conversation, but to begin the discussion, if you will, please comment below. Show up daily. Show up daily. That is our focus. As we are ambitious leaders that are aiming to step boldly into our vision, our purpose, and our goals, it is absolutely imperative that we show up daily. And here's why. There's one challenge that I've noticed that many leaders are faced with. It's a plague that often hinders ambitious individuals from stepping closer to what they're aiming to experience in life. And that is the plague of inconsistency. Inconsistency. How many of us, by a show of virtual hands in this broadcast, have ever started something, but sooner than later, you stopped it? You took the initial steps, and then the struggle got real, and then you stopped showing up. You knocked on certain doors and started making plans to achieve a specific goal. But as you begin to take those steps, the journey got frustrating. The lack of results became discouraging. Gratification wasn't instant, and you started feeling defeated. And before you know it, you resorted back to what you were familiar with. You stopped taking those necessary steps. And this is something that so many of us struggle with. We create goals, we create objectives. Yeah, we may start, we may take those initial steps, but the follow through is where the struggle lives. I'm talking about sticking with it for the long haul, because let's keep it real. In this modern day society, we can become confused into thinking that success is overnight, that gratification will be instant, that you're going to have a drive-through breakthrough, so to speak, right? And that's not always the case. Gratification may be delayed. It may take longer than expected. That plan, that idea that you put together, it may not unfold the way that you initially mapped it out. And if you're not careful, your mind and your feelings can put you in a place where you abandon your goals and you opt out of your commitments. But during today's brief conversation, I want to highlight that if you want to be taken seriously at anything in life, be consistent. Be consistent. Everybody comment below. Be consistent. Again, if you really want to be taken seriously at anything in life, you have to be consistent. Anybody can be motivated for a day. Anybody can show up when things seem to be falling in place. Yeah, it's easy for you to post that content like that first time. Yeah, you can upload that podcast interview. You can go to the gym, right, when it's convenient. But what makes a massive transformation, what makes the big difference, is not what you do every once in a while, but it's more about what you do consistently. And here's what I really want to get across during this conversation. Consistency builds credibility. Everybody comment below that statement. Consistency builds credibility. And here's why this matters. It matters simply because your brain is wired in a way to automate what you repeat. And what I mean by that is what you do daily begins to shape your identity. And then your identity is going to create and shape your results. To break it down even further, consistency creates habits. And then ultimately, habits create evidence. And then evidence builds belief. Not just belief in others, but belief in yourself. I'm talking about self-trust begins to enhance, self-confidence, and your belief in your capabilities begins to expand within you because you continue to take daily steps. Because again, family, it's not about what we do occasionally. It's more about what you do on a consistent basis. So as we approach this week's opportunities, here's one practical step that I suggest and encourage us to begin to take. I want you to identify what you're aiming to accomplish this week. I want you to identify what your objective is for this week. And then ask yourself, what's one daily action that I can start taking that will build momentum towards that goal? And as you identify that action that you can start taking, I want you to commit to it. You guys hear me say time and time again, you can never conquer something you're not committed to. And that's the struggle for so many of us. We're being conquered by our fears and conquered by our doubts and conquered by our frustrations simply because we haven't conquered or committed ourselves to our goals. If you commit yourself to what it is that you're aiming to accomplish and you stay locked in, yes, there's going to be frustrating times. Yes, there's going to be moments where you're set back. Yes, there's going to be times when you face resistance. But because you made that personal commitment to yourself and you stay locked in, you'll put yourself in a mental state where now you're willing to figure things out. You're willing to navigate the adverse conditions that you find yourself in until you create the result that you envision. And it's that commitment that leads to growth and transformation. I'm speaking to that one who has historically started things and stopped things. You started motivated, but then you gave up frustrated. Today's got to be the day that you make up your mind. I'm going to reap the harvest of my commitments and consistency. I'm going to stay locked in on what matters the most to me. I understand everything's not going to work out the way that I initially planned it. I understand things may be delayed, but if you stay consistent, that consistency develops a new habit. That habit becomes your identity, and that identity begins to shape your better results. Because again, consistency builds credibility. When you see somebody that consistently shows up, you begin to recognize that this is a person that's a man or a woman of their word. This is an individual that takes their goals seriously. This is a person that is committed not just for the temporary moment, but for the long haul. And it's that characteristic, that personal trait, that will open up new doors of opportunities in your career, your personal life, and in ways that you can't even imagine. What I'm saying during this conversation is this: let's see how far you can go. Let's see what you can really build. Let's discover what you can really create and manifest in your life through the power of consistency. If you want to be taken seriously, show up consistently. And I'm talking about even when it seems like nobody's watching, even when it seems nobody's paying attention to you, even when it seems nobody values what it is that you create. As long as you continue to stay consistent, I promise you, the doors of opportunities will begin to open up. You understand there's going to be frustrating times. I understand there's going to be moments of discouragement. But don't you feel defeated? Stay determined. And you keep showing up. The more you show up, the more you're voting for that new person that you're going to become. The more you're connecting with that greater identity. And as you begin to align yourself with that greater identity, the better your results and the better the outcomes you're going to create. If you don't get anything else out of what we talked about during this conversation, family, remember, consistency is how you prove to yourself that you're ready for your next level. So you got to lock in. It's got to matter more to you than anybody else. And as you stay committed, you'll conquer whatever is trying to stop you from living your best life. Whether it's a personal goal, a professional goal, fitness goal, financial goal, whatever the case may be, make the executive decision that as you start this week, you're going to lock in and stay committed and be consistent with the things that matter the most to you. If you slid into this broadcast and I was unable to give you a shout out, be sure to comment below. And if, in fact, this is your first time, or maybe it's your first time in a long time, I want to shout you out before we do wrap things up. Put a number 1 in the chat, if you will, please. And then place your first name afterward. Again, number 1. And then place your first name afterward. Latoya, you got to be consistent. Don is in the building. Yes, indeed. Reaping the harvest of my progress. That's what I'm talking about. Me is staying consistent even while no one is watching. That's the ultimate test, man. The ultimate test. When it seems like you're being overlooked, underappreciated, not acknowledged, but you continue to show up, that's what builds your character. And that character is going to position you for greater opportunities. And that's something I think we have to deeply realize, man. Think about the things that you have experienced, right? I'm talking about the opportunities that were presented unto you. Maybe you had to wait for quite some time. Maybe you had to put in a lot of work, some failures and some moments of defeat. But when you actually acquired what it is that you were aiming to accomplish, you felt it, right? You really earned that. It meant something to you because you understood the process that you had to endure to get to where you're aiming to go. And I'm a firm believer, man, that that's a part of life's journey where think about the things that if we snapped our fingers and we really got them in the moments and the times that we truly thought we needed them, we wouldn't learn to appreciate the process. That process is what's shaping your character, is shaping who you become. It's molding you into the individual that has a story to share. And I've learned as I've taken my journey of growth that you have to embrace that delay, right? Delay doesn't necessarily mean denial, but you have to embrace that delay because it's in that delay that you're being shaped, you're being molded. I know sometimes it feels like it's your breaking point, but it's not your breaking point, it's your making point. For somebody that has their back currently up against the wall and you feel like giving up, that right there is what's shaping your character. That's just molding you into everything that you've been destined to become. So you can't quit in those moments. You got to keep pushing. You have to keep pressing. You have to keep persevering and enduring what you got to endure to get to where you're aiming to go. What I'm saying is this: stay locked in. Stay locked in on what matters the most to you. Stay committed to what it is that you value. Stay dedicated to the vision that you want to experience in your life. It may take some time. It may not happen overnight. It may not all happen in one day, but if you keep taking steps, one day it will happen, but you have to be consistent. I know I missed a whole bunch of comments. Had to get that second message out right quick. Latoya says, facts, absolutely. Jay Mitch is in the building, my brother from another mother. Hope all is well with you, King. Yes, it's been a while. Glad to have you tapped in live. Excellent, excellent. Otis is in the building. Blessings to you as well, bro. Family, if we've yet to connect on other platforms, be sure to connect with your boy. I'm at D1 Gibson, including Instagram, Facebook. You guys have heard me reference my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there for more long-form content, short films, and documentary series that I produce. That's at www.youtube.com/David Gibson. And then my website is elevationisAmust.com for more information on my coaching and speaking services. And then I also get individuals inquiring about how they can contribute to the mission financially. Connect with me on Cash App. You can make a donation there. Would truly appreciate that. That's at $D1 Gibson. Again, $D1 Gibson. With all of that being said, family, I'm hoping that somebody somewhere found some value from this brief conversation. But most importantly, don't just be inspired. Let's take action. Be consistent this week. Be consistent at building that vision. Be consistent at showing up. Be consistent at taking a step, even if it's a small step. It's not even about that big leap. It's those small steps that add up, that can compound over time and create growth and progress. But before we do conclude and wrap this thing up, if you find yourself in a difficult situation or a challenging experience, just remember that this too shall pass. It's only temporary. So keep your head up, stick your chest out, and keep persisting until you succeed. If nobody else tells you that they love you today, remember your brother from another mother, D1 Gibson, has nothing but love for each and every single one of you. With all of that being said, family, it's not too late for you to share this out with the people that you care about. I would truly appreciate it. If you're watching this on Facebook, hit the share button. For those watching this on YouTube, hit the like button as well as the share button. And all the other platforms that are tuned in. Would truly appreciate that as you join in spreading this message, inspiring leaders across the globe. But family, as we do conclude and wrap this thing up, we'll be back at it next week, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, be effective, be successful, live with some passion this week, and most importantly, be powerful. I'm David Gibson, checking out. Have a phenomenal Monday and an extraordinary week. Peace.